So does anyone know why there's two games on Monday Night Football this week? Like, does anyone really know? Because I know in the past, they've done double headers on Monday night, but that was week one. So kind of weird that we have a double header or it's not really a double header because there's a game at 7:15 and then 8:30. But hey, we have two games. We do have $1 million up top. So yeah, excited to talk about the slate, guys. But if you are a first time viewer, welcome to my channel. My name is DK. I cover content for Draftkings and for Prize Picks. If you guys are looking for in-depth content, you can check out my Patreon linked down below. So let's recap everything today. So main slate, I had Trey Lance injury, ended my day early, so lit some more money on fire due to an injury. However, Prize Picks, 5 for 5, swept the board on the main slate. Huge day for me over there. So that was really, really good. So, and that helped ease the pain of the Trey Lance injury. And then the Sunday Night Football game tonight. I'm at a loss. I'm literally at a loss of words of the events that occurred. Some of the ownership that we saw. I guess we'll just let's just cover a couple things. Cole Kmet was the most mispriced player on the slate, for sure. Only $2,000. Should be like 5 to 6K. And he's only 40% owned the big tournament. And the faders get away with it. Somehow, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are the same ownership when A.J. Dillon is $4,000 cheaper and they have the exact role. Split backfield, both involved in the passing game. Just look at this, right? This is at half. Touches and targets, right? A.J. Dillon, 11. Aaron Jones, 10. Fantasy points at half. A.J. Dillon, 3. Aaron Jones, 24. So I'm thinking in my head, right? I'm thinking, okay, A.J. Dillon, probably going to be like 70, 80% owned. He's very clearly the better point per dollar play. Aaron Jones, pricey, not out of play, but more of a contrarian option. I was thinking, 25, 30% at 12K. He was overpriced. Comes in at over 50% ownership and just nukes the slate. Goes for like and the last thing too, the Packers D people go unpunished at high ownership. Everything about that slate really, really pissed me off. Yeah, Bears 4th and goal, shotgun on 4th and goal, the half-yard line. Really? Yeah, so Sunday Night Football, I mean, if you won money at Sunday Night Football, you owe me. You had to send me money, right? You had to send me money. No, but yeah, let's talk about this Monday Night Football 2-game slate. Just thankfully, we don't have to talk about that Sunday night game ever again. But yeah, hold on, let me refresh this because I don't think it's updated. But yeah, let's take a look at the Vegas odds here. Okay, so Titans and Bills, it's a 47.5 over under, and the Bills are 10-point favorites. And you have Vikings and Eagles, 50.5 over under. The Eagles are 2-point favorites. So let's just go team by team. We'll talk about players and their price points. And yeah, so we'll start with Tennessee. So looking at the quarterback spot, Ryan Tannehill, 5.2K. I'm not really looking to punt the position. I mean, he's a serviceable quarterback. He's not completely out of play, but I'm not like super excited to play Ryan Tannehill. So yeah, if you need someone super cheap at quarterback, I guess. But like, there's just quarterbacks in the slate that have a much higher ceiling, which we'll talk about. Now, running back Derrick Henry, 7.8K. So this one's a little bit tricky because we know Derrick Henry is game flow dependent, meaning if they fall behind early, he kind of gets phased out of it. In a neutral game script, or if they're playing from ahead, they're going to give this guy as many carries as possible. Now, if you look at the odds, right, they're 10-point dogs. It's not great for Derrick Henry. But if the Titans keep getting competitive or they surprise people and play from ahead, he can have a really, really good game for this price point. So it just comes down to how exactly you think this game will be played out, right? Do you think Tennessee stays competitive or even playing from ahead? If that's the case, you definitely want to introduce Derrick Henry. If you think the Bills dominate this game or the Bills are playing from ahead majority of the game, then I think you can get away with the Derrick Henry fade. And then Dontrell Hilliard is out, so he was the RB2. Looking at the snap counts last game for Tennessee, you had Derrick Henry played 44 snaps, Dontrell Hilliard played 12, and Hassan Haskins played 9. So I'm guessing that you're just going to see Hassan Haskins pick up the Hilliard role, could be like the third down back. So at 4.2K, nothing more than a large field tournament play for me. But yeah, I expect him to be that, that played more of that pass catching role. All right, at wide receiver for the Titans, so we'll keep an eye on Kyle Phillips. He's been a little bit banged up. He's listed as questionable. Back-to-back days of limited participation, I think he ends up playing. Now, looking at the snaps again, they did spread it out. So Kyle Phillips played 31 snaps, majority in the slot. And then you had Robert Woods play 46 snaps, and Westbrook Akini played 44 snaps of the 65. So they did kind of spread it out. You saw a few snaps for Cody Hollister. Not really interested in him. But yeah, no one really played more than like 70% of the game or so. So the price points are cheap, though. Right? They are cheap. So Robert Woods 4.4. Burks is 4.2. And he played, where's Burks? He only played 24 at the 65 snaps. So Kyle Phillips outsnapped him and is cheaper. And then, Westbrook is at 3.9. So if Kyle Phillips plays, I think he's a solid option here in the slot. I don't know if we can expect, this type of production yet. I don't know if we expect 9 targets, but good to see. And again, he's very, very cheap. The outside wide receivers, Westbrook and Woods, I think are fine options too. I think Woods is probably their most talented wide receiver, even though he's kind of getting up there in age, coming off injury. But I think that, the Tennessee wide receivers are all in play. They didn't do a ton last game, but they're really, really cheap in a game they should be playing from behind. Again, Burks, fine too. Did see 5 targets, didn't play a ton, but the Tennessee wide receivers I think are fine salary relief plays, just because again it should be a good game script. They're really, really cheap. They don't need to do a ton to pay off that salary. And at tight end, you saw 3 tight ends play, but Hooper and Swain played a majority of the game. Hooper ran a route on 26 of the 40 snaps. Swain only 15 of the 45. So I think Austin Hooper would obviously be the preferred target if you're looking at a tight end. But again, just like viable because he's cheap. I don't love it. All right, so let's move on to Buffalo. Buffalo, we have Josh Allen at the top at 7-8. So this is what I said. We have some quarterbacks with very high ceiling. Obviously, Josh Allen's one of them. Rushing upside, 56 yards in the ground. Obviously can get it done through the air as well. So I think Josh Allen looks really, really good here at the top. It's expensive, but running back. So Buffalo did utilize 3 running backs. However, we saw Devin Singletary play over half the game. He played 34 of the 58 snaps. Rookie James Cook only saw 3 snaps, I think partly due to his fumble. And Zach Moss saw 22 snaps. It was a little bit surprising. I thought James Cook would be the RB2. It was Zach Moss. I think that could change, but a little bit hard to say that for certainty. So with the running backs, again, Singletary is by far your safest of the bunch here. Is involved in the passing game, but not a true bell cow, but he is a part of the Bills offense, which is very, very dynamic. And I think he's a fine option at the price. Zach Moss, again, only played a few snaps, or not Zach Moss. James Cook only played a few snaps. Zach Moss did play a lot more than we thought, did see 6 targets as well. So in a large field tournament, I think Zach Moss is in play. Wide receivers, so this is pretty big news that we recently got. Gabe Davis added the injury report, and I've heard he's more on the doubtful side. So that could really open up a lot of value here for Buffalo. Stephon Diggs, 7.5K. Again, if you have the salary, looks great. Clear wide receiver 1. He looks really, really good. But the value is where things get interesting, right? So Isaiah McKenzie and Jameson Crowder, 2 guys that kind of played in the slot. But if Gabe Davis is out, these guys should see a lot more opportunity. So you saw 4 wide receivers play for the Bills last game. Gabe Davis basically played the entire game, 57 of the 58 snaps. That's a lot of snaps to go around. Diggs only played 37 of the 58, but obviously that would go up. And then McKenzie played 25 of the 58 snaps, and Jameson Crowder played 18. So what I expect to happen here is I expect more snaps, obviously, from McKenzie and Crowder. I think they're both solid values. I think McKenzie, probably the guy with a little bit of a higher ceiling, but Crowder still a serviceable wide receiver at this point in his career. And then, you also did see Kumaro, I think, played a couple snaps. As Kumaro played 14 snaps. You might see a Khalil Shakir be activated too. He would probably be the wide receiver 5. Kumaro ahead of him in the depth chart. It's 3K. He'll probably be the wide receiver 4 in play as well, but obviously riskier than guys like McKenzie and Crowder. And then at tight end, you have Dawson Knox at 4K. So he didn't do a ton last game. I'm not super worried about it, though, because just for the amount of snaps he plays, he basically plays the entire game. He played 50 of the 58 snaps. We know he's a solid pass catcher as well. So I do like Dawson Knox for value. Okay. And then finally, the Minnesota and Philadelphia game. Minnesota, we have Kirk Cousins at 6'2". And kind of just like okay with them. This is the higher total of the game of the two. Doesn't really have any rushing upside, but it's fine. At running back, Dalvin Cook's 8K. So Minnesota ran a very condensed offense. Like they didn't play a lot of guys. They only played 3 wide receivers. They played a majority of the game. Dalvin Cook played 48 of the 62 snaps. That's pretty good. Pretty good for Dalvin Cook. He is involved in the passing game as well. So I think he's a pretty safe play here at the top. I think he's a bit safer than Derrick Henry, just for the reasons of he's involved. He's game flow independent. If Minnesota's playing from behind, he's still going to be out there. So like Dalvin Cook, Madison's too pricey. I don't know why he's 5.6K. So he saw 14 snaps. That's just not enough for me to go there. Wide receiver. So Minnesota only played 3 wide receivers. We saw Adam Thielen play 59 of the 62 snaps. Justin Jefferson played 57 of the 62. KJ Osborne played 42 of the 62 there in the slot. So yeah, Jefferson, obviously you know what he did last game. An absolute massive game. He's gonna be relatively popular. He's a super talented wide receiver. So if you have the salary, obviously Justin Jefferson looks good. I do kind of like Adam Thielen though for the discount, 5.3K. Obviously the ceiling isn't as high, but he's going to be out there basically the entire game. So I think Thielen looks pretty good. And I do like KJ Osborne too at 4.3K. 4 targets. So they're only going to play 3 wide receivers like the entire game. So I think guys like Thielen and Osborne make sense. And yeah, that's it. Tight end. This really tilted me on the main slate because I put Irv Smith week 1. Minnesota, there's no news of him being limited, and he barely played. Now, the reason for that, or the reason he only played 19 snaps is, I missed a lot of camp, but tell us that before the game, right? Tell us you're going to limit Irv Smith. Cost me money last week because Johnny Munt just plays the entire game instead of Irv Smith. So, you saw 40 of the 62 snaps for Johnny Munt, only 19 for Irv Smith. I would guess Irv Smith's snaps go up and Johnny Munt's go down. Now, by how much is the question? So, Irv Smith intrigues me. I don't think you can play him in cash games, right? Just for the reason of the amount of snaps we saw last game. But if all of a sudden he's no longer limited and he goes playing 80% of the snaps, I think he's a pretty good play at this price. But again, that's no guarantee at all. So that's why I think Irv Smith, more of a tournament only play for me. I'm not really interested in Johnny Munt. I think his snaps go down. Would rather just take the shot in Irv Smith and hope that he plays a lot more. And finally, Philadelphia. So, there's 2 quarterbacks that obviously have the super high ceiling on this slate. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Again, the rushing upside is what we love. So, Hurts makes for a great play in both formats. High floor, high ceiling combo. Running back, we did see 3 running backs play for Philadelphia. So, Miles Sanders played 38 of the 75 snaps, about half the game. Gainwell played 23, and then Boston Scott played 14 snaps. So, Sanders definitely the safest of the bunch. But he's not a true bell cow. I'm kind of just fine with him at this price point. He's a relatively similar play, I think, to Devin Singletary. Sanders just okay with. Gainwell, fine tournament option in large field. 4 targets last week, and he's a good PPR back, and we know Draftkings PPR. And then Boston Scott got a couple carries, but if I'm going to target a backup running back, I'd rather go to Gainwell. Wide receiver, so did not expect A.J. Brown to do what he did week 1. 10 catches, 13 targets. So very clearly they're wide receiver 1 because Devontae Smith, he didn't have a catch. So A.J. Brown, you can afford him. Obviously looks decent. You're going to make some tough calls at wide receiver, right? We have Stephon Diggs. We have Justin Jefferson. We have A.J. Brown. So a lot of guys at the top, you can probably only get 1, maybe 2 of them. So A.J. Brown, obviously high ceiling. I don't think we see 10 catches on 13 targets again, but still in play. Devontae Smith, 4 targets, didn't have a catch. So, it'll be interesting to see what the ownership is because you did see 72 of the 75 snaps for Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown played 66, and then In the slot, you had Quez Watkins play 41 snaps. So I think Devontae Smith's a nice bounce back candidate here. Like, I don't think we're going to see 10 catches for AJ Brown and 0 for Devontae Smith. So, like, again, Smith kind of intrigues me for tournaments because we always see the week 1 overreactions. So I do kind of like his ceiling there at 4-5. And then Quez Watkins 3-3 was the slot wide receiver. Again, wasn't targeted, but did see the third most amount of snaps. Fine large field tournament play. Zach Pascal played a little bit in the slot too, but Watkins clearly outsnapped him. I would just rather take a shot on Watkins if you wanted to go to someone super cheap. At tight end, Dallas Goedert, one of the better tight end plays on this slate. He's going to play majority of the game. Good pass catcher, played 69 of the 75 snaps. I like him quite a bit at this price point. Jack Stahl, the backup tight end, again, got some snaps, but just give me Dallas Goedert there for a couple $1,000. So that is going to do it for the player-by-player breakdown, guys. Let's hope that this Monday night, or this Monday 2-game slate goes better than the Sunday night showdown for me. That was just awful. But hey, guys, appreciate you guys as always. Again, if you do enjoy this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.